And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Like and subscribe on the way in the door, my people. I hope you all are having a truly fantastic day today. Welcome back to Fanboy Fridays, people. LeBron James fanboys, I hope your day is going terrible, and I guarantee you I'm going to help it go that way with this video. Before we get started, for people who've been asking about my music, please go subscribe to Uncommon Sense Radio. That's where I'll be uploading my music and also doing some other content over on that channel. So please go subscribe. Before we get into the video, shout out to the Format Podcast, because this is where I first saw this. And fanboys, it's been a bad week for you guys. It's been a bad week, and this is all as a result of LeBron James pushing his power too far. This is all a result of LeBron James pushing his power too far. I said this when I started my podcast journey, when I started my YouTube journey, that when LeBron James retires, the kingdom will fall. But LeBron James seems to be on a mission to expedite that process. And the latest, giving some brutal takes or asking some relevant questions about the 4-6 king, is Ric Bucher. He has his own podcast called On the Ball, I believe, or Off the Ball with Ric Bucher. On the Ball with Ric Bucher. And yeah, he asked some very serious questions for the fans of LeBron James. And so LeBron James fanboys, if you guys are in the building, which I know you are, please sit back, please listen, and please think about what Ric Bucher is asking. And, you know, hopefully it makes you rethink your position. You don't have to be a fanboy all your life. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into this clip.
I have a serious question for LeBron James fans out there. How do you reconcile all the nonsensical things that he says with your love and appreciation for him as a player, or belief that he's the greatest player who has ever played basketball? I'll leave that last part aside. But for me, I ask because I struggle with reconciling my love and appreciation for him as a player, and to a great extent as a person, with all of the nonsensical things that he says.
All right, so we're going to hold on right there for a second. So, LeBron James fans, how do you reconcile if you actually believe he's a good basketball player? That's first and foremost. If you believe he's a great basketball player, how do you reconcile that with all of the foolishness? How do you reconcile that with the flopping and the lies that this guy tells endlessly? Ric Bucher said he has a hard time doing it. Now, I would argue that in order to see LeBron James as great, and when I say as great, I mean ranked among the greats. I mean, to say he's in the GOAT conversation is ridiculous. But since they keep saying it, we will keep refuting it. But to say he's in the top 5, top 10, it's ridiculous when you're comparing him to players who have played the game with integrity. And again, this guy has no integrity on and off the court. So I would argue that the only way that you can see him as great as a player is if you ignore how he's played the game. But anyway, let's continue.
Or the fact that as he has gotten older, he seems to be dipping into that wacky grandpa stage a few decades early. And I know that sounds like blasphemy for LeBron fans. How dare you say anything disparaging about LeBron? Which raises another question for me. Why is he alone above reproach? We all are open to criticism. And I would not critique him if it weren't for the fact that he invites it, or his fans do, by suggesting things that just don't size up. They just don't stack up with reality. This is the point at which he should become an elder statesman, and he's been the exact opposite. He should be someone at this point, at 40, with all that he's accomplished in the game, someone that you would look to for insight or perspective or wisdom garnered by experience. And I don't think anybody would ever say that that's what you look to him for.
Facts, and more facts. LeBron James is not the person that you look to for insight and wisdom. That is facts. Every time LeBron James talks, it's really like a kid talking. Like he's a 40-year-old kid. Like the kid from Akron never grew up. But yeah, the first thing he said, why is LeBron James the only person above criticism? Fanboys, we're talking to you. Why is he the only person above criticism? I was watching a documentary on Michael Jordan the other day. It was a really good documentary too, because it had a lot of old footage and, a lot of sound bites from old media and what they were saying about Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan, they were saying he's the next Dr. J when he came in. So, unlike these modern players tend to think that old players didn't get the comparisons. Yes, older players got that comparison too. Older players got the criticism. Michael Jordan had to deal with plenty of criticism of him saying he couldn't do this and couldn't do that. I think I saw a clip with Walt Frazier, if I'm not mistaken, and he was like, "Yeah, man, he's a very good talent, but this is a big man's league, and he's not going to be able to win, by himself as a shooting guard." He was saying something to that effect. But everybody, and matter of fact, I'll go ahead and say this. Beyond sports, everybody who is in the public eye will get criticism. When I started this podcast, before I recorded my first video, I was fully aware that with these videos, especially with me telling the truth about the 4-6 King, I was well aware that fanboys would be in my comments getting upset about it, criticizing. I had no idea that you guys really didn't have much to say except name calling. That was kind of a surprise that you guys really aren't that intelligent. But outside of that, I fully understood what was going to come of me starting a YouTube channel and my voice being publicly heard, giving my opinions. I understood what was coming with that. But in sports, like we were talking about, every athlete, especially superstar athlete, gets criticism. They get the most praise and they get the most criticism because they bear the most responsibility. How is it that LeBron James is above this? How is LeBron fanboys? This is what we want to know. We all know the answer, but we want to know from you guys. Why do you think LeBron James is above this? Why is LeBron James special? Why do you think he's special?
At 40, with all that he's accomplished in the game, someone that you would look to for insight or perspective or wisdom garnered by experience. And I don't think anybody would ever say that that's what you look to him for.
let me chime in one more time before we continue. And he said, you would think that at this age, LeBron James would be somebody that you look to, for insight and wisdom based on the experience of his basketball career, of his life. But here's the answer to that. Because LeBron James didn't do things the right way, his experiences didn't teach him anything. Because LeBron James chose to form super teams instead of staying in Cleveland and toughening it out, and hey, maybe he only ends up with 1 or 2 championships. Maybe he ends up with none, But instead of toughing it out in Cleveland and really figuring out the grind, figuring out how to become better at every facet of basketball, including how you choose to lead your teammates. Again, making your teammates better isn't just passing them the ball. It's holding them accountable. It's holding them accountable to make sure they're working hard so that you can depend on them. It's holding yourself accountable so that you're not asking them to do something that you can't do yourself. Which with LeBron James, that would be plenty. LeBron James can't do half the stuff of his superstar teammates he's had over the years. But because LeBron James cheated the system, he didn't get any experience that he could pass on to. I mean, what can LeBron James tell a young player in the NBA? If you spend a few years in one place and it doesn't look like it's going your way, I would say call the first and second best superstars in the league at the time and see if you can get them to come join your team or see if you can potentially go to theirs. That's something I learned on the way to my 4-6 record in the finals. What can LeBron James teach you? Again, he cheated the game, he cheated the system, so this is why he doesn't have that talk of wisdom. This is why when you listen to him, you don't feel like you're gaining anything insightful. Like when you listen to Magic or Bird or of course Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or a number of players. You don't feel like you get anything insightful listening to LeBron. When you listen to Magic and Bird and Mike and Kobe, like you hear the wisdom of people who have been through things and who have overcame obstacles that can in turn help you do the same. But LeBron James can't do that because he didn't do that. He didn't overcome the obstacles. He simply figured out a cheat code to get around them. Anyway, let's continue.
I'm convinced that part of his reason for doing this Mind the Game podcast is trying to impress upon people that he is that guy. But the truth is, he is trending very much the other way lately, punching holes in an already fairly ventilated credibility. Let's start with his interview a few weeks ago, in which he talked about both reporter Brian Windhorst and his reputation for being a flopper, among other subjects. I don't want to spend too much time on the Windhorst subject. I have as much respect for Brian as I do any NBA reporter in the business today. Let's leave that part at that. I know the difficult line he has had to walk as someone who has covered LeBron as a newspaper reporter in Cleveland, and especially now at ESPN, which is perfectly fine and in some ways encourages currying favor with the athletes that they cover. The commercials that you see of made-up scenarios where great athletes are shot working in the ESPN Bristol, Connecticut offices in various roles, a brilliant campaign, by the way, is the relationship the company now embraces for the sake of access, aka ratings, also known as revenue. Once upon a time, it was just an ad campaign. Now it's a mission statement. All the vehicles inside ESPN that covered sports in a serious way or a critical way are gone. There's no more outside the lines. There's no...
Now, this is something that is absolutely facts. You know, we talk a lot on this channel about the modern NBA, and we talk about the players, and we talk about the lack of seriousness in the game. Again, to me, just go turn on the conference finals between the Bulls and the Knicks, or any of playoffs in the 90s. Or early 2000s, but I would say especially in the 90s. Turn on playoffs, and there is a seriousness and intensity that you can feel through the TV screen. Like, you can hear it in the way the game is called. You can see it in the way the players play. You can hear it in the way that the crowd is cheering. And I know this might seem odd to some people, but in the way that the crowd cheers, like, there's so much more seriousness, so much more spirit in the way that the crowd cheers back then. Whereas today, you know, you hear the crowd cheer, it's like I don't even know how to describe it. You know, it's like it's like they're applauding a performer or something. You know, it's like they're applauding a performance versus like being invested in what's happening. Like, when you hear the cheers from the 90s, it's like you can tell from the sound of it. It's intense that these people have a vested interest. These people have they have an emotional investment in their team winning or losing. Like, it is serious. But nowadays, like I said, it's just like you cheering because you saw somebody do a backflip. You know, it's you're cheering on the entertainment, but it's not that serious. And Ric Bucher made a good point, though. It's not just the players. It's really everything surrounding the game. You know, it's how the game is covered. It's how the game is commentated. You know, it's like I said, the real life basketball has become much more like 2K. Whereas, you know, back in the day, it was the other way around. They were trying to figure out a way to make video games as real life as possible, as close to real life as possible. Now it's like it's flipped the other way to they're like, oh, well, you know, we'll just make the NBA like 2K.
Now it's a mission statement. All the vehicles inside ESPN that covered sports in a serious way or a critical way are gone. There's no more Outside the Lines. There's no more the sports reporters. There's no more Mark Schwartz or Jeremy Schaap. And my guess is there are sports fans who don't even know who those guys are. Windhorst has taken great pains to be fair, but honest in his coverage and analysis of LeBron. But he has never, ever pretended to have a personal relationship with him. I almost feel as if he's gone out of his way, in spite of the fact that they went to the same high school and his mom taught LeBron at one point, that he's gone out of his way.
Okay, now this is something I didn't know. I didn't know they went to the same high school and his mom actually taught LeBron. So that makes that little comment LeBron made on the Pat McAfee show all the more slime ball. Like that it's like, why? It was like he just acting like the mean kid shelling out insults for no particular reason, just to get a laugh in the moment. I mean, that's what that whole thing felt like. Even the comment about Giannis scoring 250 points. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, the notion that it could happen, but it's also ridiculous that you said that just moments after you were griping about comparing errors, and you shouldn't compare errors, and you should respect all errors. And then just a second later, in true 4 and 6 king fashion, he throws some disrespect to the past errors. And this has been the LeBron James era. This stuff started in the LeBron James era. People have always compared players of the past. We have always debated players. But back when we were younger, if you were debating Michael Jordan versus Larry Bird, I don't ever recall having to say something negative about Larry Bird, and this is, well, they played in the same era, but even if you were comparing him to Dr. J, the guy who he was supposed to be the next, like I said, when he came into the league, Michael Jordan was touted as the next Dr. J. Even if you were comparing him to Dr. J, I don't remember ever having to say something negative about Dr. J, but this started in the LeBron James era. I didn't have to say something negative about Dr. J to make Michael Jordan appear greater than he was. Michael Jordan's greatness spoke for itself, and you knew that by the fact that the overwhelming majority of people felt the same way. This is how you know. And this is why LeBron James is crying every day, because no matter what he does, no matter how many media companies and how much bullying he tries to do in the media, the overwhelming majority still doesn't think he's the GOAT. And more people are waking up to the fact that this is not even a real conversation. Like, this is a media manufactured conversation that that the NBA put together to help promote LeBron James and promote the product of the NBA. But this has all been a manufactured thing, and more people are waking up to that, which is why we're listening to this video right now. Let's continue.
LeBron, but he has never, ever pretended to have a personal relationship with him. I almost feel as if he's gone out of his way, in spite of the fact that they went to the same high school and his mom taught LeBron at one point, that he's gone out of his way to make it clear that they don't have a personal relationship. Do they know each other? How could they not? They went to the same high school. Brian has covered him since he came into the league practically. But Brian never, publicly or privately, has tried to suggest that he has some sort of special relationship with LeBron. So for LeBron to say that it's weird that Brian pretends he's LeBron's friend is not only a patently false premise for anybody who knows both of them, it's such an unnecessary shot at someone who in no way deserved it. It's both mean-spirited and it's being a bully. To what end? This is not the first time I've had this thought. And for those of you who don't like politics and sports, this isn't...
Bully is the correct terminology for LeBron James. Because I also think that bullies are front runners. Bullies are people who bully people who they obviously have an advantage over. This is what a bully does. They pick on people who they know they can get away with it. If a bully has some doubt about the person he's about to pick on, he doesn't do it. And so, like I said, it's the same thing as front running. You know, this is LeBron James in every aspect of life. On the NBA court, he's the ultimate front runner. When he's winning, or he's on the sideline dancing and all that. And when he's losing, he walks off the court mad and pouting, being a bad sportsman. And so him running up on Stephen A. It's like, LeBron James, there are plenty of people who were talking about Bronny, which turned out to be a false premise of why you approached him anyway. You was mad that he questioned you as a father, but there are plenty of people who question you as a father as well. They might not have directly said as a father, but by the statements they made, they were questioning you as a father. You didn't run up on anybody else. You ran up on Stephen A. Smith. You called Brian Windhorst weird for no reason. It is just being a bully.
Shot at someone who in no way deserved it. It's both mean-spirited and it's being a bully. To what end? This is not the first time I've had this thought. And for those of you who don't like politics and sports, this isn't a political statement. It's simply stating a fact. LeBron's method of operation is exactly the same as our current president. They tell lies that are so easily exposed by anyone willing to take 5 minutes of research or simply paying attention to current events that you wonder how they got the idea or the courage to tell them in the first place. The lies are so blatantly obvious that they are insulting to anyone of average intelligence. The two
LeBron James fanboys, did you guys get that? The lies are so blatantly obvious that they are insulting to anyone with just a little bit of intelligence. So what does that say about you, LeBron James fanboys? Like this thing, I'm not gonna lie, this particular thing about LeBron James, that is the most puzzling thing about the guy that I truly cannot figure out. Except for the fact that he knows he has fanboys that will protect and eat up any and everything that he says, no matter what it is, they'll co-sign it. I mean, for goodness sake, one of them made him an R&B love song, so we can see where their head is at. But for the life of me, to get on a microphone and say that you don't flop, that's special. To get on a microphone when there are several flopping compilations of you flopping is I can't even put it into words. That's the most confusing thing about LeBron James, is he will tell lies where where you really don't have to even search for the evidence. I mean, if you're scrolling through YouTube, chances are you've come across a LeBron James flop compilation. Like, it's so blatant and in your face that it's just a wonder that he has so many people willing to go to the grave defending him. But some people are starting to speak out. More and more people are starting to speak out. Fanboys, get your affairs in order.
Them even recite imaginary conversations with people who supposedly confirm whatever myth that they're trying to sell. And I can only theorize, and I'm going to put my Dr. Phil hat on, I can only theorize that the reason is the same. There's an insecurity complex that creates a need to make themselves bigger than they actually are.
I think everyone could have figured that out pretty easily, because this has been LeBron James' whole career, is trying to make himself bigger than he actually is. Now, part of that is the NBA's fault. You know, I was just watching the Michael Jordan interview on Oprah, where he was talking about, you know, when you give people this much money at the beginning, they lose the desire to work. Like, they feel like they've already made it. And so, you know, the NBA bringing so much hype around LeBron James, like they help fan the flames of this fire. But LeBron James is clearly insecure. Like, this is why he spends so much time trying to control the perception of him, trying to make people see him as the GOAT. Because people who are secure with where they are, with what they've done, they don't do that, because they're secure with wherever the chips land. They know they've done their part. They know, hey, look, I left it all on the floor. I did every single thing I could do to be the best that I possibly could be during my career. And now it is what it is. The chips will fall where they may. But I know that my body of work speaks for itself. Only a person who knows what they've done in their career and knows that they have cheated the system is constantly begging for respect and trying to get people to see them as the GOAT. If LeBron James was fully secure with what he's done in his NBA career, he wouldn't do the things that he does. He would be at peace with whatever happens. But this, you can't hide from what you've done. You can hide it from other people, but you can't hide it from yourself. That's the problem. Whatever you do in your life, ethical or unethical. You can hide it from other people, but you can't hide it from yourself. You will always know. And so LeBron James will forever always know that, hey, you know, I had a chance to go the Michael Jordan route. I had that opportunity. I went to Cleveland, a franchise that hadn't won. I could have stuck it out. For better or worse, I could have stuck it out and really tried to make my mark in that way. Michael Jordan turned a losing franchise into a dynasty. Into a respectable organization. Within a 13-year career. LeBron James had that opportunity, and because he was so worried about what people said, he was so worried about the perception of him because he's insecure, which is also why he fumbled in 2011. Those insecurities came out. That pressure came out. That pressure of knowing that you put together a super team and that you better win. You went and left Cleveland in a despicable way without telling anybody what you were going to do until the last minute. You went and joined Miami, it was a super team with D Wade and Chris Bosh, and we all know, we heard stories of them trying to get Carmelo Anthony, and feel like a couple of more players seemed like they were being talked about as part of that deal at some point. You did all that. You better win. So to me, that's what happened in 2011. LeBron James was dealing with that pressure because, again, you can try to pretend in front of the public, but you know what you did was cheating the game. Let's just call it what it is. What you did was cheating the game. And you had to live with it. And in 2011, that year, when you got up there and said, not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven, and I really mean that. When you got up there and said that, you knew what you had done. You knew that you put together a super team. You knew that you were trying to cheat the system. And that led to an immense amount of pressure that you put on. Because like I said, you do something like that, you better win. And you didn't. And you didn't. You crumbled under the pressure. You crumbled under the pressure. So you squandered your chance to actually be like Michael Jordan. You know it. Whatever you do, you can hide it from other people, but you can't hide it from yourself. And in the case of people who are paying attention, for the people who care how you win, you will never be respected from us. For the people who respect the grind, you will never be respected like the greats from us. You're falling further and further down many people's lists.
I actually don't think it's all that complicated. In any case, LeBron's response to being labeled a flopper is another perfect example. In the interview, when asked why he's flopping all the time and if he's looking for the same advantage that Patrick Mahomes is looking for when he embellishes contact, LeBron said, "I wish," because it was suggested that Holmes gets 15 yards anytime he embellishes contact. And LeBron said, "I wish, because I literally, over the last 5-6 years, when everybody is claiming I flop all the time, I'm like in the bottom half of free throw attempts per game." Those are his words verbatim.
Now, I actually did a video on that. Now, like I said, now, he's not in the bottom half of free throws, but it turned out that he was shooting a lot less free throws in the last few years. But Ric Bucher is actually going to agree with my reasoning behind that. Because some people were saying, hey, it's because he takes so many more threes. Well, the year that he took the most three-pointers as a Laker, he actually also shot the most amount of foul attempts as a Laker as well. So it's not just the threes, but Ric Bucher is getting ready to say what I said about why LeBron James is getting less calls.
He's in the bottom half of free throw attempts per game the last 5-6 years. Here's the reality, easily researched. LeBron James has never been anywhere close to the bottom half of the league in free throw attempts per game or for a season ever. Let me walk you through the math. There are 30 teams which are allowed to carry 15 players on standard contracts, another 3 on two-ways. That's a total of 18, which is 540 players, but we'll leave out the two-way players for this exercise. Let's go just with 15 players per team, 30 teams, that's 450 players. An average of around 500 players take at least one free throw in a season, but again, for the sake of bending over backwards to be fair as possible, let's just go with the number of players who take enough free throws to actually qualify for the free throw shooting title, which is roughly 260. You're still with me, right? LeBron is one of 260 players who shoot enough free throws to qualify to be ranked by the league in free throw attempts per game. Is he in the bottom half of those 260 players? Well, half of the last 6 years, LeBron didn't play enough games to qualify, but we can still look at what he averaged for the games he did play and where he ranked overall. And here's the reality. Over the last 6 years, whether you include this year or exclude it and go back to the 2018-19 season, he has never been lower than 26th in free throw attempts per game. In order to be in the bottom half, he would have to be 131st or lower. He's never been lower, ever, than 26th. And 26th is for this season. That means that over the last 6 years, using only the most conservative number of players, 260, he has been in the top 10% of players in free throw attempts per game every season. Every year in the top 10%. And if you go back over his entire career, he had a stretch of 10 years when he was in the top 2%. But he's never been lower at any time than the top 10%, ever. And yet, he has the mystical audacity to say, yeah, for the last 5-6 years, I've been in the bottom half of the league in free throw attempts. To suggest, by the way, that that's proof that he's not a flopper. But the reality is, referees watch tape. And once you have the reputation of a flopper, they're no longer going to blow the whistle when you fall down.
There it is, people. There it is. Once you have established a reputation as a flopper, you're not going to get the whistle as much. It's the boy who cried wolf. And you may say, hey, the referee has a job to do, blah, 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 blah. First of all, when you flop, you're making the refs look bad. You're making the refs look bad. As if the refs need any more help looking bad, because refs in the modern NBA suck as well. But you're helping to make the refs look even worse. So yeah, when you keep on deceiving the refs, this is what you're doing. LeBron James fanboys, the guys who take up for him every single day, when you deceive the ref, when you lie to the ref, because flopping is both lying and cheating, and you establish a pattern of doing this over and over again, eventually, the refs are not going to give you the benefit of the doubt anymore. Here's something to consider, LeBron James. Maybe you're getting the amount of free throws you're supposed to get because they're not calling flopping as much. Because they're not falling for the flopping as much as they used to. Maybe you were getting so many calls back in the day because they fell for the flopping a lot more often. But yeah, Ric Bucher hit the nail on the head. Once you establish a reputation, and fanboys, here, let me put it in your language. Let me break it down so that you can understand it. Fanboys, once you have flopping compilations out, once you flop so much that fans and content creators can sit down and compile a flopping compilation tape of you, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt anymore. Once the word flop is associated with your name, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt anymore. That's just the way it is. But again, like Ric Bucher said, it's not like he's in the bottom half. He's just shooting less than he used to.
When there's contact, at least not at the same consistent basis. So why would he think that he could get away with telling everyone that for the last 5-6 years he's been in the bottom 50% of the league when it comes to free throw attempts? Or why would he think that that would somehow be an argument to suggest that he's not actually a flopper? Again, I can only theorize. One, he seems to have a taste for pretending to be a victim. Two, he figures his followers, much like the other guy, will not only believe it if he says it, they will get angry and cry about how he's being unjustly treated because he said it.
Exactly.
By the way, I realized something about the LeBron devotees who have dedicated their lives to trying to hoist LeBron above Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time, that they generally employ one of two tactics that expose the fact that they either never watched Jordan play or they know that they can't make a basketball-based argument for their guy. So they do this. This is their counter to any time you blow a hole in statistical or analytical or personal accomplishments between the two. They try to discount either A, who Jordan competed against, the old plumbers and carpenters line, or B, they impugn anyone who has seen both Michael and LeBron play and favors Michael by calling them old heads who are just romanticizing the past, who can't let go of the past.
LeBron James fanboys, you guys are exposed to the world. Everybody knows your playbook. Everybody knows your playbook. Everybody who is a true fan of basketball or was a true fan of basketball, they know your playbook. It's either discrediting the older generation. Again, this is a product of the LeBron James era. This is where that started. Or it's just calling people haters or old heads or however you want to classify it. It's just name calling because you really don't have an argument to back up.
Aside from neither of those things being true, certifiable or otherwise, it shifts the conversation away from assessing their actual games or accomplishments. Because here's the reality. If it looked like Jordan was competing against plumbers and carpenters, it's because he made them look that way, not because they were literally tradesmen or that they were that severely inferior. He was just that much better. When Jordan was playing, no one, and I mean no one, debated who the best player in the league was. Ever. And there were tons of Hall of Famers. When he ducked out for 2 years, Hakeem Olajuwon became that guy. Hakeem Olajuwon, in my mind, the greatest center that we've ever seen, well, that I've ever seen. Just because I didn't see Wilt and I saw Kareem at the end. So if you want to go with either of those, you want to go with Kareem, that's fine. In terms of the time that I've covered the league, Hakeem Olajuwon was as good as any I've seen. Watching him absolutely take apart a young Shaquille O'Neal in the finals sealed the deal for me. It was one of those times you just go, I can't imagine anybody, I had not seen anybody else do what he did to as great a player as Shaquille O'Neal. And he undressed him. Also undressed David Robinson once upon a time, after Robinson went out of his way to win the scoring title. Those are the guys that I like, by the way. When you do something that's for a statistical reason, and I like David, but that was just so he could say he had a scoring title. When you put the numbers ahead of the game and you have somebody who respects the game to the point to say, don't you think for a second that your statistics are going to mean that you are better than I am, and then they go out and they make you pay for that, that's my kind of player.
There you go, people. We actually going to hold up here. This video got pretty long, and I actually may divide it into 2 videos. But, yeah, I mean, he called all the numbers on LeBron James. You know, last but not least, talking about the fact that the guy plays for statistics. You know, one of my favorite parts in The Last Dance is when, you know, Karl Malone won MVP and they're interviewing Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's like, fine, you got the MVP, but I'm getting this championship, though. Michael Jordan did not play for stats. The great players did not play for stats, for statistical reasons. The statistics were just a byproduct of the effort and the work that they put in. The statistics were a byproduct of them working on their game and being as great as they could possibly be in every facet of the game. It just happened. Not the other way around. They weren't trying to rack up statistics so that people can say, oh, look how great such and such is, because look at these statistics. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much the LeBron James era wants to try to convince everybody that winning is not important, winning is the reason that you play sports. Winning is the only goal in sports. You are trying to win, especially when you are getting paid millions of dollars, especially when you get drafted to a franchise or traded to a franchise. Your obligation to the franchise is to try to bring championships. Your obligation to the fans who live in that city is to try to bring championships. Your obligation to your teammates is to try to get championships. This is the reason that you play. But anyway, we gonna hold up here. LeBron James fanboys, it's getting dark for you guys. It's getting real dark for you guys, and we are all excited to see it. Yeah, like I said, it's more and more people are coming out because LeBron James this year, he pushed his power too far. And so, you know, he's getting exposed. Now people are like, hold up, man. You got J.J. Redick coaching. You got Bronny in the NBA. You traded Anthony Davis, even though you want to say you didn't. You doing all it's just too much. We're tired of this guy. People are getting tired of the guy. This is what's happening. People are getting tired of capping for him. People are getting tired of hearing other people cap for him. And so, yeah, dark days are coming for you LeBron James fanboys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. What do you think of what Ric Bucher had to say? The many things, truths that he had to say about LeBron James, about the lies, about plans for statistics, about the fact that him at age 40 should be in a more mature place. Him at age 40 should have some insightful wisdom to impart upon the younger fans, or fans period. And the fact that LeBron James he's still a kid. He has nothing insightful to say. The kid from Akron never grew up. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You all have a truly fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. All right.